In the heart of India's rugged terrain along the banks of the Chambal River, there exists a city known as Kota. Once upon a time, it served as a strategic stronghold against invaders, a duty entrusted to the rulers of the nearby kingdom of Brij. Among them was Maharaja Suraj Mao, who, impressed by Kota's natural beauty, decided to establish his summer residence here. This marked the beginning of Kota's transformation from a simple trading post into a bustling city. Today, Kota has grown into a major educational hub, earning it the nickname the Mecca of coaching. Its sprawling, coaching institutes are renowned for preparing students for competitive exams like the UPSC, UPSC, and others. Yet Kota is more than just books and exams. It boasts numerous tourist attractions. Among them is the majestic Brij Bhawan Palace, which now operates as a heritage hotel. The palace was constructed in 1864 by Maharaja Madho Singh of Jaipur in a blend of Rajput and colonial architectural styles. It features regal arches, large courtyards, and a central dome adorned with intricate designs. But once the sun dips below the horizon, this grand palace transforms into a labyrinth of fear and mystery. That's because every full moon night, it awakens from its slumber and lets loose its horrifying secrets. To truly understand the haunting tale that unfolds within its walls, we must travel back to May 1857. At that time, the palace served as a British residency, a place where European officials resided under the protection of the Maharaja. It was looked after by a careworn British officer named Major Charles Burton, who lived here with his two sons. Charles was a stern man, a disciplinarian who believed in maintaining rigid order. He held his officers to high standards and expected unwavering obedience. Unfortunately, he had chosen to enforce these ideals on the Indian sepoys, or soldiers, under his command. They, along with the rest of the population, revered the deities they worshipped with all their might and main. But Charles had shown disrespect to their holy symbols, resulting in tensions growing between him and his men. Then came the fateful night. The year was 1857, and the storm raged outside the residency, mimicking the turmoil brewing within its walls. Inside the palace, the loyal sepoys waited patiently until Charles had retired for the evening. They knew their moment had come, and they intended to make the most of it. With stealthy movements, they seized the weapons kept inside the palace, quickly disarmed the guards, and made their way to Charles's residence. When they finally confronted Charles, he was taken aback by their numbers and the ferocity with which they attacked. Despite his efforts to resist, he couldn't fend them off alone. In the struggle, his two sons also lost their lives. And eventually, in the dimly lit chamber, Major Burton was shot dead. His life ebbed away as he slumped onto the ground, staining the marble floor with his blood, which legend says has never been able to be wiped away. As the news of Charles's demise spread through the residency, the sepoys continued their rampage, killing any British they encountered. The uprising was a pivotal moment in India's struggle for independence, but it also left a deep scar on the land, particularly at the Brij Bhawan Palace. You could say that the incident birthed a restless spirit that still roams the palace grounds. Many years passed and the palace saw new occupants. It transitioned from a military base to a government building and finally to a heritage hotel. But the spirit of Major Burton didn't seem to mind. He continued to reside in the room where he breathed his last, forever trapped between the realms of the living and the dead. One evening in 1980, a young woman named Meera Singh checked into room No. 310 of the palace. Little did she know that she would soon become entangled in a terrifying ordeal that would challenge her beliefs and push her to the brink of despair. The room she had chosen was none other than the very spot where Major Burton had met his demise. As the night wore on, she began to experience strange and unsettling events. First, there was the sound of tapping on the window, but the window was locked from the inside. Then she noticed that her drawers had been flung open and her clothes were neatly arranged on the floor, as if someone had tidied up her things while she was asleep. However, when she turned on the lights and inspected further, she found no signs of entry or any disturbance. The door was securely bolted from the inside, and there were no windows or other openings that could have allowed someone to sneak in. On the third night, the supernatural events reached a terrifying climax. Meera woke up to find a tall man standing near her bed. His face was ashen, his mustache was impeccably groomed, and he wore a British Army uniform. In his hand he held an old muzzle-loading rifle. According to her account, the man uttered the words, "You do not belong here. This is still my post," in a whisper that sent shivers down her spine. Imagine the fear that must have gripped her as she stared at this apparition from her bed. Meera screamed for help, but her cries went unheard. When her parents rushed to her aid, the room was empty, except for the lingering scent of tobacco that suggested the ghost's recent presence. Desperate for an explanation, she sought the help of a priest who performed rituals to appease the spirit. But the haunting continued unabated, casting a pall of fear over the hotel. It wasn't long before people started whispering about the haunted palace, and it became a hot topic among the locals and visitors alike. Some dismissed it as mere superstition, while others were convinced there was more to the story than met the eye. But what they didn't realize was that this was just the beginning of a much larger narrative. Over the years, stories of paranormal activity at the hotel continued to surface. Staff members reported seeing the ghost of a British officer pacing the corridors, especially during the full moon. They also spoke of doors opening and closing on their own, of lights flickering mysteriously, and of sudden drafts of cold air sweeping through rooms, even in the sweltering heat of a Rajasthan summer. These accounts painted a chilling picture of a hotel haunted by the restless spirits of its past. But the story doesn't end there. There's another layer to this haunting tale. You see, Major Burton isn't always seen as a malevolent spirit. Many believe he acts as the protector of the palace, appearing only to punish those who disrespect the premises or engage in questionable activities. According to one account, a security guard was patrolling the premises one night when he began to doze off on the job. Suddenly, he felt a sharp slap across his face and he awoke instantly, shaken by the unexpected blow. When he reported the incident, he was reprimanded by his superiors, who viewed it as an attempt to shirk his duties. However, other guards corroborate his story, claiming that it's common knowledge among them to stay alert, lest they become the target of the Englishman's wrath. Another chilling tale involves a hotel employee named Kamal who worked as a cleaner. One night he stumbled upon a bag filled with cash in one of the guest rooms. Overcome by greed, he pocketed a significant amount. However, his ill-gotten gains were soon discovered by his supervisor. As punishment, he was summoned to the manager's office where he confessed to his crime. From that moment, strange things started happening. Kamal began hearing footsteps behind him and he could feel the intense stare of someone watching him. Finally, he spotted the figure of an elderly white man walking towards him. Although he couldn't see his face, he could sense the man's anger. Terrified, Kamal fled, leaving the man in pursuit. Somehow he managed to escape the clutches of the pursuing man. However, he soon realized that he was being followed wherever he went within the hotel. Unable to bear the torment any longer, he quit his job and fled the city. But perhaps the most haunting tale of them all is that of a young couple who booked the palace for their honeymoon. They chose room No. 310, unaware of its gruesome history. On their first night there, they experienced unexplained phenomena such as curtains and doors swaying gently without any breeze. By the next morning, they were so frightened that they cut their honeymoon short and left the palace in haste. All these stories combine to paint a vivid picture of the paranormal activity that is said to plague the Brij Bhawan Palace, whether one chooses to believe in them or dismiss them as mere folklore. There is no denying that they add a layer of intrigue and mystery to the hotel's already rich history. If you happen to visit Kota and decide to spend a night at the Brij Bhawan Palace, keep these tales in mind. Who knows? You might just encounter the ghost of Major Burton or one of the other spirits that are said to roam the premises. Just remember to be respectful, don't steal, and if you hear boots on marble after midnight, salute or run.